Nigel Farage, very good afternoon to you. According to yesterday's Sunday Times, the deal is in the bag.
I'm sure that's right. I mean, I think we saw the October deadline extend to December, but in classic Brussels style, you know, at the 11th hour there will be a deal. I've no doubt about that. It will be Brexit in name only. From what I can see, we'll be staying in the customs union, paying a vast sum of money, but this is what's going to get put to the House of Commons.
Do you think Brussels will ultimately agree to some kind of sunset clause for the UK to leave the customs union?
Well, it'll be written in very, very careful legal wording, no doubt, so that both sides can interpret it as a victory. The truth is, nothing can be set in stone forever, but I do fear that we're going to wrap ourselves into a customs union deal and a transition that will go on at least until the next general election. And, you know, from the perspective of Brexit voters who voted to become an independent country, take back control of our borders, stop paying away huge sums of money, and from all of those reasons, you know, what the Prime Minister is doing, I think is very poor indeed.
David Davis, writing yesterday, former Brexit secretary, said he wants, and he's not alone, he wants to see the legal guidance on this. You talk about some of the fuzzy language that might be allowed to finesse a deal. The way you could argue to combat that, particularly if there isn't necessarily good faith on all sides, is to make sure it's absolutely locked down with the lawyers.
Well, look, the one thing I've learned after all my years in Brussels is ultimately there are no rules. They make it up as they go along. As I say, whatever the wording, we'll interpret it one way, and if they choose to, they will interpret it another.
Ultimately, it comes down to whether Theresa May, whatever the deal looks like, can secure the parliamentary majority to get it through. How do you think that arithmetic looks right now?
Well, from previous experience of this, the rebels within the Conservative Party tend to melt away and become a relatively small number. And I would have thought there'll be quite a lot of Labour MPs in the Midlands, the North, South Wales, sitting in seats where there was a big Leave majority. And by voting for May's deal, they can say to their constituents, I voted for us to leave the European Union, even if the detail means we haven't really. So, you know, my guess, right at this moment in time, my guess is that the customs union style deal that Theresa May is lining up, my guess is she'll get it through Parliament. My guess is we'll leave the treaty at 11 p.m. on March the 29th, and my guess is that all the issues raised in the referendum will dominate British politics for at least the next decade.
Time is running out before that deal. How much has that been a stratagem, do you think, from Number 10?
Oh, I think they've, ever since the Conservative Party conference, I think Mrs May has been appealing to what she calls the reasonable side of the Labour Party. I think there's been a very big charm offensive going on with them. And all previous history, I mean, such as Maastricht 25 years ago, suggests that once the whips get to work, and bearing in mind that most of our MPs are career politicians above all else, they'll whittle that number down too. So I suspect that Number 10 is a little bit more confident about this than perhaps most of us think.